Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about a tale as old as time, and that is aligning sales and marketing. Now, if you're in sales or marketing, I guarantee throughout your career you've run into times where you've had trouble aligning these teams, especially at the leadership level. So today we're going to walk through a couple practical examples of how you can get these two teams aligned. We're going to focus on 5 key things. That's going to be structure, people, process, incentives, and tools. Step 1, and the absolute most important aspect of getting your teams aligned, is structure. So make sure you have a structure that is conducive to aligning sales and marketing teams. Ultimately, there's a lot of pressure to do what your boss tells you to do, or to do things that align with your boss's goals. So making sure you have reporting structures aligned well will help set the environment to get both of these departments working together. Here are a couple things on structure to consider. 1, do the leaders between sales and marketing roll up to the same leader that is not a CEO? Do they roll up to a chief revenue officer, or do they roll up to a chief operating officer? Somebody who's responsible for all revenue, but who isn't the CEO. The reason why this is important is you ultimately need one person who can make judgments that may impact the sales side of your go-to-market strategy or your marketing side of the go-to-market strategy. If both leaders are reporting into the CEO, it often can lead to feuding between those people, looking for that CEO's approval. The second thing you should consider on structure is who should really be calling the shots in your business model. As an example, if you're in a sales-led growth motion, typically the sales team will be leading most of the decision making, especially when it comes to overall go-to-market or revenue strategy. However, if you're in a product-led organization or a very high-velocity sales environment, oftentimes most of the revenue is driven by marketing efforts, so they may have a little bit more influence over what decisions to make for your overall revenue strategy. The third thing to consider on structure is where your operations team is reporting. It's really common to have sales operations reporting into a chief revenue officer, and then have a separate team for marketing operations that could be reporting into a chief marketing officer. The reason this can cause some conflict is you may have 2 operating teams that are setting up systems slightly differently. They may be reporting on data slightly differently, and you're driving misalignment bottom up that can really cause issues from a leadership level and a middle management level. Step 2 for getting your sales and marketing teams aligned is you have to get the right people. Getting great people on the team tends to be the ultimate buffer and gives you some grace just in case you don't have everything dialed in on the other aspects of aligning your teams. When you're interviewing for sales or marketing leaders, here's a good way to gauge if they're going to be a team player and see themselves on the same team as the opposite end of the go-to-market structure. When interviewing a sales leader, ask how the marketing team performed at their previous companies. If you're interviewing a marketing leader, ask how the sales team performed at their previous companies. Now, it doesn't really matter if they said they performed well or not. What you're going to be looking for is their tone. Do they have a tone of respect and reverence for the other department that they were not a part of? And do they take any responsibility or discuss it as if they were on the same team together? Or do they make it seem like it's a completely different team that they were not responsible for? If they go straight to throwing the other team under the bus, that might be a red flag in the interview process. Step 3 on getting your teams aligned is having very clearly defined go-to-market processes. Some of the largest conflicts between sales and marketing rise up from misalignment on data definitions and processes during the handoff. A good way to gauge if your teams are aligned is to ask your teams if they know what a sales qualified lead is. If you get different answers from marketing versus sales, then you know you potentially might have misalignment. Also, make sure you have routing and handoffs very clearly defined in the process. What happens when a PQL comes in? What happens when somebody fills out a form on your website? And who's responsible for managing, handing off those leads? All of those aspects of your processes need to be aligned between sales and marketing so everybody's on the same page. As an example, you may ask a salesperson what a sales qualified lead is, and they would say, it's when I've had a meeting and gone through my qualification process and I know there's a potential deal. Now, when you talk to the marketing team and ask them what a sales qualified lead is, They may say it's when sales has had a meeting. Without clearly defined rules of engagement, people are left on their own to figure it out for themselves. And this could be a recipe for disaster. Step 4 for getting your teams aligned is having the right incentive structure. This one is huge. Incentives drive behavior, and you want to make sure the incentives you have in place are driving the behavior that you want. I'll use the most classic example here. Your marketing team may have a goal for driving a certain number of leads. And a lead may be defined as somebody who fills out the Contact Us form on the website. Now, your marketing team could drive a large number of leads, and when they get to the sales team may realize that most of these leads are nowhere near the ideal customer profile that they're expecting to be meeting with. In this example, your marketing team hits their goal, maybe even knocks it out of the water. However, the sales team is left with low quality leads and isn't well equipped to meet their quotas. In this example, it might be better to have a goal for marketing that's revolving around sales qualified leads, where sales agrees that this is in the ideal customer profile and there's a potential opportunity with this prospect. Here are a couple ways to get goals and incentives aligned between marketing and sales. One is you can tie part of marketing's compensation and goal structure to closed-won business. That way they're driving high quality leads and as much volume that can help the sales team hit those targets. Two is you can make pipeline generation a part of the sales team goals. Give them an incentive to do their own cold calling, drive opportunities to collaborate with marketing for events, webinars, and other mutual activities that they can do to help drive leads, and make sure they're both owning that pipeline generation number. Third might be a spot bonus for driving testimonials or case studies that marketing can turn into amazing content to drive more leads. Step 5 for getting your teams aligned is making sure you have all of the tools and technology in place to track goals and help them work together. Make sure you instrument goal tracking in a way that's visible and transparent for both teams. Usually you can get most of this spun up in Salesforce or HubSpot. However, if you have more sophisticated needs, you could use a BI or pipeline sales management solution such as Looker, Ebsta, or Funnel Source. It's tough to play the sport of revenue generation without a scoreboard. And making sure you have a single source of truth for both of your teams to be aligned and know exactly what's happening helps these teams work together. You can also bring in tools that can optimize the routing and handoffs between the two teams, tools such as Lean Data or Chili Piper, to make sure that those processes are running as effectively and efficiently as possible. We hope you enjoyed this video about aligning your sales and marketing teams, and if you want to learn more, like and subscribe.